Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. Coming up, the battle against gender segregation in public spaces here in France. Also, how South Korean authorities are taking on high-tech voyeurs, not easy in a country where 9 out of 10 people have a smartphone. And the trials and tribulations of being a sportswoman in Cambodia. But we begin here in France, where women's groups are increasingly campaigning against gender segregation in certain neighbourhoods of the nation's cities. They're saying in some suburbs, women are now not comfortable to go to particular cafes, for instance. This report from our sister television network, France 2, sparked a debate at a time when attitudes have hardened towards immigration and questions are now being raised about French identity as the country faces a presidential election next May.
Cafe terraces, busy streets, familiar scenes, but something's missing from the picture. As if airbrushed out, there are no women. In some of the outskirts of Paris, men have taken over public spaces, and women are putting up with it. Nadia Remadna and Aziza Saya are two activists from the Mothers Brigade. They are fighting for women's rights in their Paris suburb. To demonstrate the kind of reaction they get from men, they visit a local cafe with a hidden camera. Before they even get inside, their presence seems to disturb the other clients. There are only men in here, and they're not very welcoming.
Le mieux, c'est d'attendre dehors.
Pourquoi?
Ici, il y a que des hommes.
Bah, c'est pas grave, on vit dans un monde où il y a des hommes et des femmes. Ça vous dérange, vous?
Moi, c'est pour vous.
Non, pour moi. Là, je suis...
The bar owner doesn't want to talk. The other customers, meanwhile, are uncomfortable.
Mais je m'en fous, on va se faire discrète, petite, dans un coin.
Il y a que des mecs dans ce café.
Et comment c'est normal qu'il n'y a que des mecs? Imagine que tu veux prendre un café avec une cousine, une amie, ta femme. Non, normal.
Ma cousine, elle reste chez elle.
Ta cousine, elle reste chez elle. Ah bon?
Elle fait ce qu'elle veut, mais pas avec moi. Ben voilà, dans ce café, il n'y a pas de mixité.
Est-ce que c'est normal?
On est à Sevran, on n'est pas à Paris.
Même à Sevran, c'est la France.
T'es dans le 93.
Et alors, le 80... Et alors?
À Paris, c'est des mentalités différentes. C'est comme au bled.
For a woman, going into a bar here is breaking a taboo.
Tu fais ça en Arabie Saoudite, tu dis ouais. Mais ça, on est en France. On est en train de dire ah, mais tu te rends compte, il y a des femmes quand même qui ont été dans un café.
So why are men rejecting women? It's a question of tradition, of culture, but also of religion, according to these two activists.
En 2005, quand il y a eu
In 2005, during the riots in the suburbs, the authorities relied on the so-called Big Brothers to calm down the younger ones. But by calling on the Big Brothers, it meant they had already excluded women, mothers. They weren't appealing to the parents, which in the end would have been more legitimate. So we ended up giving men the spaces, the areas, I won't say they dominate, but that they control at least.
Their brand of Islam is a big mix of everything. It looks like the penal code now. Don't do this or that. This is forbidden, that is forbidden. Everything's forbidden. And yet we're in France.
As we talk, a car slows down next to us. A way of intimidating these women that's become all too regular. They prefer to end the interview. Meanwhile, in this suburb of Lyon, here in Rieux-la-Pape, unemployment is at 20%. Shops are closed. Young men have the run of the area, and few women are in the streets. Our camera is not welcome.
Allez, on y va les filles, on va faire quelques commerces.
But some women have decided to fight back, organising regular marches. Residents of the area, of every political stripe, they want to take back their space and make themselves known. In cafes like this one.
We need to go back to the idea of camaraderie, because it's important in a town. It's important to mix, that there aren't places we have to tiptoe past. Everyone should be comfortable, and you should bring your wives too.
On the spot, the cafe owner tries to defend himself.
I accept all customers. I've got no problem with women or men or anyone.
And yet, no women come here. The march organisers' priority is to convince local Muslim women to join in.
Mais notre but, un petit peu, nous,
c'est de mélanger.
voilà, ce qu'on aimerait,
Oui, mais après, il y a les convictions religieuses qui font que la femme, elle peut pas trop se mélanger. Enfin, elle peut pas du tout, même il n'y a pas de mixité en fait.
But it's also difficult to talk freely under the watchful eye of some local men.
En plus, on parle, ils sont pas contents parce qu'ils nous regardent de travers.
Voyez où votre fille boire un café là. Elle a 17 ans.
Some women just don't see the point of the march.
Mais moi, je ressens pas le besoin, comme vous disiez, madame. Vous avez parlé du bistrot. Il faut aller dans les bistrots. Moi, je me ressens pas le besoin d'aller dans les bistrots.
When the women decide to attempt another cafe,
Vous pouvez faire partir.
the men would rather leave the place. Yet again, not everybody seems convinced by the march.
There aren't many Muslim women with us. They like the idea but still don't join us.
Why not?
Well, I don't know. Maybe. No, I don't know.
The women in Rio-la-Pape are not alone. Marches like theirs are happening in places all over France. A fight to take back public spaces that has only just begun.
Now, 9 out of 10 South Koreans own a smartphone, but being a member of a tech-savvy society does have its drawbacks. The country is dealing with a recent spate of crimes by men who use phone cameras or even hidden cameras to take inappropriate photos of women. Our team on the ground recently went on patrol with those tasked with tracking down the high-tech voyeurs.
Armed with a small suitcase, white gloves and a sophisticated metal detector, these two women are ready to go over these public toilets in Seoul with a fine tooth comb.
The job I'm doing right now is to check if there are any micro cameras inside the toilets. We want women to be able to use the toilets safely and to feel more comfortable about using them.
They're targeting molka, the Korean word for voyeuristic videos and photographs taken with concealed cameras. In many cases, the inappropriate images end up on pornography websites. The patrollers give this toilet the all clear. They say that just being there to confirm that nothing is amiss is enough to reassure the women who use the facilities.
I feel a bit more comfortable. Usually I'm a little anxious about using public toilets.
Last year, there were more than 7,600 incidents in South Korea of voyeuristic photography on the subway or in public toilets. That's a 7-fold increase in just 5 years. The rise has been fueled by the availability of cheaper, yet more sophisticated micro cameras.
People are easily fooled because this phone looks just like a card holder, but it's not. It's actually a camera.
So-won Park is one of the many victims of camera-wielding voyeurs. Park was filmed without her knowledge when she was a schoolgirl. She decided to take action, forming a group that lists websites that carry these illegal images.
When one of my schoolmates took a photo up my skirt, I told him to stop. But he thought it was a joke, even though, in fact, it was a crime. I don't think boys take this crime seriously because they've been conditioned to think it's normal by a huge number of voyeur videos on the internet.
South Korea is the most connected country in the world, with smartphone ownership at 90%. But it's lagging behind other countries in other areas, such as gender equality, according to the OECD. New technologies are increasingly being used to degrade women, according to this professor of sociology.
The culture of discriminating and degrading women is still prevalent here. You could say that in South Korea there's a huge gap between fast technological progress and mentalities that are evolving slowly.
People found taking voyeuristic photos can face up to 5 years in prison. But tougher penalties aside, the authorities face an uphill struggle convincing perpetrators that they're doing anything wrong.
And finally, young female skateboarders are riding against tradition in Cambodia, where women have little access to sports. They currently make up some 20% of elite athletes, a trend some are now trying to change. Not easy, however, in a country where many believe that when women play sport, they could lose their virginity.
Besides the tricks and flips, perhaps the most striking thing about this skate park in Phnom Penh is that there are as many girls as boys. It's a source of pride for the charity Skatistan, which sees sport as a force for gender equality. That's a powerful message in conservative Cambodia, where sports are mostly reserved for the boys.
We want girls to develop their skills through skateboarding and for them to overcome their fears. We want them to be themselves and not to be pressured by their families and their peers.
It's a different story at the elite level. Very few of the country's pro athletes are women. Wrestler Cho Sutira, who took part in the Rio Olympics in August, is one of them. All year long, she trains with men for lack of any female partners.
In Cambodia, people think sport isn't good for women, and that if they do it, they'll start to look like men, and that nobody will want to marry them.
Cambodian women are often expected to conform to rigid beauty ideals. They should be petite and slender, and their skin should be as pale as possible. Hardly an encouragement to run around in the tropical sun. The government has recently launched a campaign to try and get more women playing sports.
We decided to use successful women athletes as a model for our country and our nation. We want to show that doing sports does not have a negative impact on their lives, but on the contrary is very positive.
But there's a long road ahead, as inequality between the sexes remains deeply entrenched. One well-known guide to manners still instructs women to be discreet and subservient to their husbands.
And that's it for now. And if you'd like to comment on what you've just seen, you can head to our Facebook page. That's France24 51%, or do send us a tweet at _51%. Thanks for your feedback so far, and please do keep those comments coming in. So until our next show, bye for now.